All right, here we are ready to delve into the key of G. Really, we need to learn two chords for this. One is the key, chord C, and the other is D7. We'll start off with C. It's probably the most different chord that we've had. Except for G, a lot of ours have stayed right around the 2nd fret, all up and down the different strings. The key of C is going to span us across 3 strings. So I'm going to take my 3rd finger and put it at the 3rd fret of the A string. So we don't play E, we play the 3rd fret of the A string, then we play the 2nd fret of the D string, we leave the G open, and then I play the 1st fret of the B string, and then leave E open, and it sounds like this. So going across from low E, I mute it, or don't play it, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open, 1st fret, open. Now, C is probably the first chord where if you haven't had problems yet with your thumb being up here, and I've been reminding you of it, you might have some problems on this chord because it's very easy to mute the high E string if you don't have a nice arch. And it's a little bit hard to get the arch with this chord unless your thumb is back there. So try that out. See if you can get each string sounding. Don't get too hung up on if you've got 1 or 2 muted just a little bit. That's going to be okay, but keep aware of it. So there's our C, C major. Now if you leave your 1st finger right where it is, we're going to go to D7. So the 1st finger stays right at the 1st fret of the B. I'm going to bring my middle finger, put it on the 2nd fret of the G string, and then my 3rd finger and put it on the 2nd fret of the high E. I'm just like in D major, I'm going to avoid A, although it's not a big deal if I play it, and I'm definitely going to avoid E. But so mainly just the top 4 strings. And there's D7. Go back to C. So remember, you're going to leave that 1st finger there. Now, if we switch to G, we can definitely go from C to G to C. And most of you, I've noticed, are definitely playing G with the 2nd finger, 1st finger, and then 3rd finger. All right. That works just fine, and in fact, that's how I learned it. It's a lot more work, though, and a lot more distance to travel, and some people have trouble with it. So I'd like to introduce you to a different way. Again, you're always welcome to choose which way you do it, as long as you're getting the chords to switch. So go back to how you finger C. Now you'll notice that your 2nd and 3rd finger are in the correct position to just pop over and play the bottom 2 strings for G. But then that would leave the high E open, at which point I can put my pinky down there. Now right now you're probably still trying to get your pinky to go there. Our pinky does not like to do work on its own. All right, it's kind of a lazy finger. It's actually not so much lazy, it's just we don't use it for very much by itself. It's normally just used for grabbing other things with those fingers. If you work at it, this will end up being easier, and there's a whole lot of advantages to this fingering of G when you're playing in the key of G and you have to go to C. So I'm going to mostly do that. You may see me revert back because I'm still, I learned the other way and I just got very quick with it. It's a lot easier to get quick with this, and even if your pinky is having a little trouble and you mute that high E string or you leave it open, it's not that big a deal. It's not as big a deal as being slow to that G where you're going to have the open E and A string. So let's do a little bit of switching back and forth, G to C. Let's do some rock strumming. So this is progression Q. 1, 2, 1, 2, 4 beats each. G, 2, 3, and C. G, C, G. Now next time, instead of C, I'm going to go to D7. D7. This is progression R. D7. So Q and R, practice those switches. Those are the fundamental switches in the key of G. Moving on to progression S, it's just going to put all of those together. And really it's all about putting all this together in all sorts of different orders. So progression S, we're going to start on the C, we're going to move to the G, head up to D7, and then back to G. Very common. Down to G, D7, and now G. I'm going to try this with the down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. C, G, D7, G, C, G, D7, G. One more time. Take that G, and we're going to go on to progression T. Now we get to go directly from C to D. Now you could substitute in D7. It's actually, I find it easier to switch from C to D7 because you can leave that first finger on the first fret of the B string. But in this case, we're going to just go to D, which is very common in the key of C too. So progression T, with a little down, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, down, down, up, and go. Down. 2 progressions on each, 2 patterns. C, now D, back to G, G again, C, D, G. One more time. All right. Now you may have noticed I reverted back there to my old way of fingering G, and that's just something normal. You can switch in the middle of it. You can get good at that. However you want to do it. I encourage you to not just give up on using that pinky because it really does have some great advantages. All right, moving on. I'm going to skip over progression U. Really, it's almost exactly what we just did, except it gets this switch from D to D7. So just practice that a couple times. It's a little strange because you're just kind of rotating fingers around. Progression V, we throw in the E minor now. E minor has a very special thing in the key of G. We call it the minor 6th chord. You'll find it in a lot of key of G songs. In fact, a ton of songs will just be G, E minor, C, and D, or D7. You'll find that a lot of pop and folk and rock songs that are in the key of G use those 4 chords. So, progression V, with the down, down, up, down, up. 2 patterns on each, so 8 beats. 1, 2, ready, and. E minor is next. To C. D7. G. E minor. That's incidentally the progression that they use on Last Kiss, and actually a ton of songs from the 50s and 60s use that same kind of progression. And then progression W. G, D, E minor, C. This is one that's in a video that if you want to look up called the 4-Chord Song. It is incredibly common on pop songs, so much so that they did the spoof song where a band plays about 50 or 60 different songs that are all have this progression in them. So G to D, E minor to C. Alright? Why don't we do it with some rock strumming? 1, 2, 3, 4. G to D, E minor, C, G, D, E minor, C. One last time, I won't call out the chords. There you have it. The nice thing is now that we have a ton of songs that we can learn, G is a very, very common key on the guitar because you've got a lot of open chords to work with. We know more and more chords, and that just opens up all sorts of doors for songs that we can play now. So get to it on that list of songs or other songs that you want to learn, and I will see you in the next video.